lots of other methods that people use to teach controversial issues, and I wonder whether any of you want to share your favorite method that you've used in the past. Are people familiar with the walking debate? Goes by different names. Some people call it four corners activity. It depends on how you structure it, but basically you're asking students to position themselves physically along a spectrum or in four corners of the room. You give them a question like, let's see, what would be a good controversial question? Looking back to some of the examples that you all came up with. So, well, let's take the question that was raging here in Berkeley last spring. Should we open schools now? And you would have students line up along a spectrum from, absolutely yes to absolutely no, and anywhere in between. Or you could do strongly agree, somewhat disagree, strongly disagree in four corners of the room. And then students from those different positions would share their arguments behind their position. And importantly, you would give students the opportunity to move from one position to another based on what they heard their classmates say. Something that may have changed somebody's minds might get them to move. So that's the walking debate. Other ones, line of agreement is, yeah.
Yeah, can I just, yeah, one we use at the Migration Museum that actually I once used as a citizenship teacher long time ago before I started this job is that we do a kind of silent conversation that builds up with our visitors. I think it's probably better over a few lessons or a few weeks, so it doesn't have to all kind of pile into that half an hour or an hour. But we encourage visitors to the Migration Museum to reflect on our exhibitions by writing their questions for each other on the outside of envelopes. Like maybe there's 20 envelopes, hung on the wall, and then other people respond to those questions or respond to each other's responses, write on each other's answers, and it just grows. And so we've got a whole exhibition about skin color and what does skin color mean and not. It's based on an art piece that we share, and the conversation that grew around that was amazing. And like a bit of moderation is needed, I find, but generally, actually, it's like a really calm way of students having a chance to discuss things with each other without you leading it, and where they're all equally heard and have a chance to say something or not. And yeah, so I guess silent debate, silent conversation is what it used to be called around the tables in classrooms, but this is on the wall, and it's, as I said, grows over weeks. So
nice. Yeah, one of the teacher educators that I studied used silent conversation as one of the approaches. Anything else anybody wants to share? Another teacher educator who I studied actually created a simulation about a parading dispute in Northern Ireland, where students were given different roles and they had to try to come up with a negotiation that would, regulate parading. And that was very, very interesting. That's written up in the book. Another teacher educator actually had students look at historical sources, kind of one by one, to build up evidence around the question, what made reserve police officers massacre Jews during the Holocaust, during a particular event. And it was fascinating because students ranked factors that they thought were important in making those people shoot. And when they got more evidence, they changed their minds. So they went deeper and deeper into the question as they got more and more evidence. And then they looked at the outcomes of the trials that were held and did a walking debate on to what extent they thought justice was served. So lots, yeah. Kirsty, can you unmute? I'm not hearing you.
Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Yes, sorry. So we used a mock UN format so that students played envoys from different countries, and they were talking about whether or not the Security Council should intervene in Syria. So, I mean, some of you may have used this. It's a reasonably old resource now, unfortunately. But to actually distance themselves from their own feelings to be able to represent someone else was a really empowering thing for young people to do, because suddenly they could, you know, they could detach that they could depersonalize it, and it actually helped them to really explore the different issues from different perspectives, you know, to actually not, you know, not feel personally attached to the issue, but to kind of look at it from somebody else's perspective. That was really powerful, and I like that distancing technique.
Mhm. Thank you for that. Yeah. Zoe.